In this unit, we're going to study the passive voice. Now, every single time we talk, we normally, most of the times, use the active voice, which is this order of the elements of a sentence. First of all, I say the subject, then the action, the verb, and afterwards, I say the object or the complements. So, for example, I can say something like, they make this watch in China. Okay, so this is how we usually say things, we speak. I study at the Adventist Secondary School. I have lunch at 12 o'clock. As you can see, the first thing I say, it is the subject, then the action, then the complement, the rest of the sentence, okay? But what happens if the subject, it is not important, irrelevant, or simply, I don't know? For example, if I say in English, they make this watch in China, the most probable thing that's going to happen is that someone's gonna ask me, they make? Who are you talking about? Who are they? And I would say, I really don't know. Chinese people, I suppose, Chinese worker there in China. So in these cases, just because I don't know the subject, or I really don't care about who made the watch, I have to use in English the passive voice. So, in first place, what I say, it is the main and most important thing, which in this case, it is the watch, this watch. So, instead of starting with the subject, the workers, I start with the object, the watch. So the watch, this watch, is made, I really don't care who made it, in China. This watch is made in China. Este reloj está fabricado en China. Okay? So, as I have told you before, most of the times we speak in active voice, using sentences like this. They clean this room every day, following this order. First of all, a subject, then a verb, and afterwards the rest of the complements. Okay? But what's the point or the reason why sometimes we have to speak in passive voice? Well, let's take this sentence again as an example. In this case, they clean this room every day. The subject, they, it is something that is not important. The important thing here is that this room is clean, okay? So, I'm going to use the passive voice when the subject, this one, it is not important, I don't care who cleans the room. It is unknown, I don't know who cleans the room. Or I want to be very formal speaking of emphasizing the object. So in this case, what I'm going to do is I start my sentence with the main important thing, which is in this case, this room. This room, after that, I say the verb and then the rest of the complements. This room is cleaned every day. Now, I'm going to show you how to do lots of exercises that are very important for you. How to turn an active sentence into a passive one, into a passive voice. Okay, so we're going to follow some steps. First step, they have cleaned this room many times this week. This is an active sentence. Okay, so we've got a subject, we've got a verb here, and the rest of it is the complement. Okay, right. So first step, the first thing I have to do is I have to identify the object and put it in the first place to write my passive sentence. Okay, so they have cleaned. What have they cleaned? What am I talking about? I'm talking about this room. So in first place I'm going to write this room. Second step, I have to identify the verb and count its words. In this case, they have cleaned. This is the verb. And I'm going to count down all the verbs, all the words. I have two, alright, 1 and 2 words. Now, always, when you're writing, when you're turning an active sentence into a passive sentence, you have to have one more word. So, we're going to have 1, 2, and 3 words. Next step. Write the past participle of the main verb in the last gap. Okay, so this is what I'm going to do now. This is the last gap. And this is the main verb, clean. Alright, now remember, every single verb has got 3 different forms. Remember, we've got clean, infinitive, cleaned, past simple, and we've got cleaned, past participle. Yes? So I'm going to choose this form to write it down here. Cleaned. Now, if you got an irregular verb, it is mandatory. It is an obligation, it is a must for you to know all the different forms of the verb. If you don't know this list, which by the way you got it at the end of your book, you are not going to be able to do this kind of exercises. For example, imagine that you have to use the verb build, construir. Okay? So if you don't know the past participle of the verb to build, which by the way it is built, you can't do this exercise. Okay, so please take a look at the list of irregular verbs at the end of your book, because otherwise it is going to be kind of impossible to do these exercises. Alright, so we are here, cleaned. Okay, good. Next step. Write the verb to be in the same tense the verb is in the active sentence. Alright, so let's take a look one more time here. I have got, they have cleaned. Okay, so I have to say have cleaned, but instead of using clean, I have to use the verb to be. Okay, so what am I going to do? This room, 2 words, have cleaned, have gone, have studied, have been, have been. Okay, so these room have been cleaned. This is exactly the same tense that I have used here. Yes, have cleaned, have been. But there's a problem here. This room. In this case, we have two options. Have or has. Well, as you can guess, this room goes with has instead of have. So, this is the way. It is the passive voice of this sentence. They have cleaned this room many times this week. And this is the transformation. This room has been cleaned many times this week. Okay? Now you're going to practice with some active sentences, turning them into passive sentences. Okay?